The bridge. This happened when I was just 3 years old. It happened when one of my mom's relatives died and needed to be bereaved the next day. We left Manila that night and started our trip. We made a left turn going to Bambang. According to my mom, we entered a street with a gas station in the corner. We continued to travel that two-way road. Along the way, we passed 7 bridges and a kilometer of bullet trees covering almost the whole sky. After a few minutes, we stopped on a bridge. We didn't notice that the Jeep we were riding was just a few meters from a high fall. My dad saw a boat with people holding a gas lamp. We called them and asked for directions when suddenly the light vanished into thin air, and so did the boat. My mom decided to get help down the road. Along the way, they passed a group of frogs. She said it could be more than hundreds of frogs. After a few minutes of walking along rice fields, they noticed that they were being followed by a red Volkswagen. They noticed that the drivers were all wearing gray suits, but had no faces at all. They didn't mind the car. After a few seconds, the car vanished behind them. It's impossible for the car to just vanish because they were walking along rice fields. That got them scared. So they tried walking a little bit faster this time. After a few minutes, they noticed that they are being followed by another vehicle. To their surprise, a 10-wheeler truck was traveling with them in a very narrow road. Again, people were wearing gray suits and were driving the truck. Just like what happened with the Volkswagen, the truck vanished after a few seconds. They started to panic. They reached the end of the road and saw a house. They knocked and asked the gatekeeper if they could spend the night in their house. The gatekeeper said that the house was already full. When they peeped in the house, the people lying on the floor were just like the drivers of the car in the truck, wearing gray suits and no faces at all. They hurried back to the Jeep so we could get out of the creepy place. We traveled the same road where we passed the bridges and the trees. Everyone was surprised. We stopped on a cliff-like road. The bridges were no longer there. 5 of the bridges were gone, and we passed a very steep road, as if the bridge had already been removed. We passed the bullet trees, almost lying in the floor. The last 2 trees were even blocking the road. So my dad's friends cleared the way. We got out of the creepy place after a few hours and reached the gas station again. We filled the Jeep with gas. My dad asked the gas boy about the bridge. The boy said that the bridge was out. He pointed at a very big signboard saying the bridge was washed out. A very big sign that only a blind person would not see. None of us in the Jeep saw a sign as big as the ad on billboards in the EDSA. We continued our travel to another city within reach. No matter how far we tried to move away from the gas stations, in spite of the lefts and right turns that we did, we always passed the same gas station with the washed out billboard. This time, we knew we were being played by evil spirits and elementos. We decided to take a rest in the house of one of my dad's friends. We stayed there for the night. My dad asked the caretaker of the house about the bridge. Same thing. The caretaker said that the bridge was washed out from the first bridge that we have passed. But this next part is what I can only remember because most of the time I was just sleeping. Around 3 a.m., my relatives were awakened by a familiar sound. An ice cream bell. Though we didn't see the vendor in the ice cream cart, we were hearing the bell and vendor cart moving outside the house. Now imagine an ice cream vendor during wee hours. My dad decided to go home. In the morning, on our way, we stopped by the fruit stand. We asked the owner where they got the fruits from. The owner said that they were from the other province. My dad asked how it was delivered there, and the owner said that they passed the bridge, and to our surprise, we left the stand after eating. On our way to Manila, while traveling in Lex, the North Luzon Expressway, my mom was still seeing the red Volkswagen, still following us, and just vanishing after reaching the next exit. The Screaming Bridge. Williamston is located on the northeastern side of North Carolina in Martin County. It is a small community of about 6,000 residents. How to get to the Screaming Bridge? The Screaming Bridge is located near Little Washington on Yarrow Creek Road, crossing the Sweetwater Creek. Ghosts of Screaming Bridge in Williamston, North Carolina. As with many screaming bridges in the country, there are many stories about this place. There are at least 3 other screaming bridges throughout the country. The Screaming Bridge in Westchester, Ohio, has a history and ghost stories that are even more colorful than the ones told about the Screaming Bridge in Williamston. One story, perhaps the most believable, is that a young girl who belonged to the Yarrow family drowned in the Sweetwater Creek under the original Screaming Bridge, which was wooden, not concrete, according to one source. Her apparition has been seen a number of times, and people have reported hearing the girl's screams since the 1800s. Another story is more typical to Crybaby Ridgemore. This story says that a woman was driving home with her baby, and the car went off into the road into the river below. Both mother and child died, and so now, today, disembodied sounds of the baby crying can be heard at the bridge. Some people report hearing the disembodied sounds of the woman crying out for her child as well. Yet another ghost tale says that a woman hung herself at the bridge. Her distraught sister, upon finding her lifeless body, then slit her throat, then and there, leaving a bloodstain that would reappear again mysteriously at certain times in spectral form. Ghosts and Orbs Haunting Bridge and Warehouse. We have a bridge here in Clare, Wisconsin, with an old factory building behind it. For the locals, the Banbury building is reputably known to be haunted. The stories attached to it are legendary, of course, but no doubt something haunts the facility. And right across from the old warehouse building is the Clare River. The EC River has the unique S-shaped bridge in the city. Both establishments are historical and referenced back to the founding city days, so no doubt that either can carry a legacy or more. My personal experiences date to the beginning of fall last year. I was doing historical research on the bridge, discovering its history and its builders. On the plaque next to the bridge read the foundation and discovery of the trains that could curve on the S-shaped monument. During building, one of the workers died on a fall. And no one ever suspected this bridge to be haunted. It may not be, but something lurks around there, that's for sure. So I took a few pictures and ended up with an orb on the bridge. I wasn't necessarily too pleased with an orb in my picture since I was looking for historical photos to represent my research. Every day, I'd go back and the same orb would appear in different locations. It was then that I read that the man who built it fell to his death. So once I realized who the orb might be, I asked him kindly to stay out of my pictures so I could at least get good pictures without unearthly specters taking the spotlight. He obeyed, and I got my pictures. Some people I went to school with found my blog on MySpace and decided to go down to the bridge and make a spectacle about the occurrence since they felt they had ghost work to do. This was in February. They made a YouTube video about it, and I felt shattered that people could be so cruel to expose a friendly spirit and mock it to smithereens. So I went down to the bridge one night, hoping that the spirit wasn't mad, that I opened something no one knew anything about. I took some pictures, and once again it appeared to me like usual, dancing in the moonlight. If spirits can hear us, I told him I was sorry. After all, the presence on the bridge is a calm one, and I believe he looks out for his lovely bridge. As I was walking to the other side, kind of gazing in my own thoughts, I saw a man near the Banbury building. He was in all black and making his way up the stairs on the side of the building. He was clear as day, even in the dead of night. As I neared closer and thought I'd be able to see the real person, he was not there. I thought, that was odd. I had just seen a man I thought was human climbing the stairs, and it was gone right there, right before my eyes. I then linked the haunted warehouse building to the bridge. Perhaps there are many spirits down there by the Clare River. Jericho Bridge haunted. This happened to my boyfriend, me, and at the time his best friend, and a few other people, while ago, last summer. My boyfriend and his best friend were obsessed with the paranormal. I wasn't much into trying to see or contact spirits at the time, even though I was truly fascinated. The covered bridge on Jerusalem Road was our nightly hangout place. The first few nights I went with them, things seemed to be normal. The eerie feeling was there as they were telling me what was around us, spirit-wise. But before I go any further, my boyfriend and his friend were convinced that they had powers. I can't remember what his best friend said he could do, but apparently my boyfriend was a healer, and apparently his best friend scared off anything he wanted to scare off. To this day, I'm not exactly sure if this is true or not, but I tend to believe it, to a certain extent. We went to the bridge one night, and I decided to grow some balls and go inside the bridge. Everyone warned me because it is said that it's an easy place to get possessed. I'm very strong-minded, so I didn't care much for that. And I crouched down on the side and waited. Nothing at all. I waited for about 10 minutes, and right as I was about to get up and leave, I started listening to the water. There were people talking. So I went back to my boyfriend and asked him what was down under the bridge. He told me it was all water. Everyone was on the road that night. So I told them all about it, and they decided to go down there to check it out with me. No one was there. I know I'm not crazy, and I wasn't hearing stuff. A little while after that, I was sitting on the ledge of the bridge because I didn't want to go back in. That's when I heard a woman singing. It was much like a lullaby. I'm getting the chills as I'm writing this. It was so creepy, and it sounded like as if it were coming from right behind me. My last experience in the bridge was when we were walking out. We were all walking down this long road when we heard a man roaring and screaming in the distance, inside the woods. Also, as soon as we left the little road and got onto the main road, the temperature changed drastically. We were on foot the whole time, by the way. If anyone had any of these same encounters on this bridge, I would be very interested in hearing what you have to say, as this is the most creepiest experience I have ever witnessed.